what makes a buttered marshmallow cake a buttered marshmallow cake? What makes it stand out?
Well, I don't know how to make a dry cake. That's one.
Hey there, Omaha. Welcome into another episode of Restaurant Hoppen. I'm your host, Dan Hoppen. And I have to admit, I don't really have that much of a sweet tooth, and I'm usually pretty disciplined when it comes to not having a ton of dessert, not having a ton of sweets. I like to focus more on the savory side of things. But that discipline goes out the window when there's a buttered marshmallow cake sitting in front of me, because this is the queen of cakes right here. This is Stacey Leick. She is the owner of Buttered Marshmallow, and the fact that the confections that you create are coming out of a home kitchen by someone who has no professional restaurant or bakery experience is just incredible. I had you on the show a couple of years ago, but so much has changed in the last couple of years. I was like, I need to have Stacey back on. So, Stacey, welcome to the show once again.
Thanks, Dan. So happy to be here. Really appreciate it.
So I want to start with something that I actually found on your website that I don't think we got a chance to discuss last time, which again was like 4 years ago anyway. There's a line on your site that says, it's about more than cake. It's about the entire experience. And that line really drew me in and fascinated me. What does that mean to you?
Well, start to finish, really. So you order a cake from me, you show up. First thing that happens is I pop open my pickup window on my porch, and I hand a pink box out to you after greeting you. And the box is generally partly opened. And the look on every customer's face when they see it, they all just, their eyes kind of light up and they are happy and smiling. And so it's that. Now, oh my gosh, I've just seen a work of beauty, I have to admit, or something really nice. And then you get the cake and you cut it and you look at what's inside the cake, and it's really beautiful. I work really hard on flavor profiles and the quantity of ingredients to ingredients so that when you bite into something, you can taste everything, not one or two things, just complete melding of perfection, in my opinion. So then you eat it, and it hopefully it exceeds your expectations. You've already seen this beautiful piece of art. Now you've cut into it, and it looks delicious, and then you taste it, and it is everything that you were hoping for and everything you wanted. And when the cake is finished, somewhere in your mind you're thinking, when can I order another one? Yeah.
So right off the bat, just in case somebody isn't familiar with buttered marshmallow or hasn't ordered a cake from you before, I just kind of want to make the process clear because it's a little bit different than most bakeries or cake companies. You do operate out of your home, so people can go to butteredmarshmallow.com, and they should. Check out all the different cake options. I mean, you have, I think it's 44 cake options, and then you allow people to fully customize and go wild, do their own thing too. Place the order online, and then you will send them your address. They come to your house, pay online, and yeah, you have a pickup window, and you just hand that cake out. From your perspective, like, I know that there are days where it's really, really hard, and you are baking dozens of cakes. You're creating all kinds of components that go inside, different ganaches, different jams, all kinds of things. Like, it can be a wild day in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. When you hand someone that cake, and like you said, they're too tall for the box to fold down on, so the box is slightly ajar, and someone can look in and see that cake even before they fully get to unbox it. They get at least a peek, and their eyes just widen, and you can kind of see that joy in their face. Is that what keeps you going? Like, on the days where everything is just like crushing you and it's just cake, 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 to see that expression, is that what does it?
You know, it doesn't hurt. I'll tell you, it doesn't hurt. I've said this before, and it really is the honest truth. I love what I do. I'm living a dream life because I get to do a couple of other things that I also love while still maintaining the bakery. But it doesn't hurt that every single time a customer shows up to pick up a cake, they are always happy, because people don't order cakes or desserts or whatever from a bakery like mine for sad occasions. They're usually looking either to celebrate or, my favorite, just because. So knowing that somebody is going to be really happy when I hand them a cake and smile and their face lights up, and then knowing how they're going to feel when they eat that cake, yeah, that kind of does it.
So I'm not asking you to say anything bad about any other bakeries in Omaha, but when you think about your cake, like, what makes a buttered marshmallow cake a buttered marshmallow cake? What makes it stand out?
Well, I don't know how to make a dry cake. That's one. Maybe I have a couple of customers who have disagreed over time, but I've put out about 5,000 cakes, and I probably heard maybe 10 times it was dry. And actually, when I think about that, one of them I equated to when we had that big power outage last year. I never lost my power. I live where cables are overhead, and I should have lost power, but I didn't. And I kind of wondered if maybe the fact that nobody was drawing energy, does that impact the heat of my oven? Because I had 3 cakes that went out dry. Anyway, other than weather, talk about digressing. My cakes are always moist. They are consistent. That is really important. If you get a Sarah's Chocolate Dream Cake today, and then you order one next year or next week or whenever, based on what you remember, you're going to get the same thing, because I don't modify and change recipes willy-nilly or ever, really, when I find one that works. And then my buttercream. That would be the next thing. It is unique. A lot of people call it whipped. It's not. Whipped icing, the first component in that is hydrogenated oil. I do not use hydrogenated oil in my buttercream. I do whip the living life out of that buttercream and bring it to a brand new life. But so those 3 things: this cake that's always moist, it's consistent, and that buttercream.
And you just mentioned you surpassed 5,000 cakes sold.
Yeah.
That was actually in last November. You put up a post and said that you'd sold your 5,000th cake, and at that point you'd been at it about 5 years, because you started in October of 2019.
Yes.
When you had that realization that you'd sold 5,000 cakes, what was that like for you?
Oh, it was incredible. It was phenomenal. I just couldn't believe it. I think about when I started the bakery, well, as I was planning to start the bakery, and my goal was to bake 3 cakes a day, 17 a week. That's what I had to do. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I baked 5,000 cakes. It was gratifying. Coming from a place, the reason I started the bakery and the reason I left corporate is because I had been told so many times, no, you can't do this. Great idea, but no. Oh, we'd love to try your fantastic thoughts. No. And to start my own business and then sell 5,000 cakes. Like, holy moly. To 4,300 customers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So a lot of repeats, but also a lot of newcomers in there, too.
Yeah, 4,300 new ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah.
So I want to get into the origin story a little bit, and because you just went there, and it sounds like a big reason why you wanted to start this bakery. I know that you just love to bake, like recreationally as it is anyway. You're someone who is very creative. You have a skill with food. But you were tired of hearing no. Mm-hmm. This was an opportunity to say yes to yourself.
Right.
How much did that play into the decision to start this thing?
It was 100%. So I worked for. I loved my job for a long time, but I just did not like for whom I was working. Didn't like their approach, or really just. It was not the right fit for me. And to be told no all the time, regularly, I was a director, and yet every good idea I had was no. I did some amazing things that were profitable and brought in new customers and was chastised, oftentimes in front of others. And I just said, you know what? I'm done. I am done being told no. I'm done not getting the proper recognition for when I'm bringing in revenue. I'm cutting expenses, but not cutting service, and I'm getting nothing as a result of it. I just thought, if I want to be told no, I'll go back and remarry my first ex-husband all the time. I got tired of being in a negative space all the time. And I was in a negative space all the time. It was debilitating. I was 57 years old and not ever really happy. So
how was opening a bakery in your home, like, why was that the right avenue to say yes to yourself?
Well, because I get to make all my own decisions, and then when I make a mistake, I get to own that decision. And when I do something really great, I get to own that greatness. Nobody's going to come in and say to me, you can't bake this cake. Stacey, oh my gosh, that Sarah's chocolate dream cake is phenomenal. You're not going to be doing that anymore. We want you to focus on, I don't know, whatever, something that's not great, not wonderful, and that you hate. It's like I got to do what I wanted and, like I said, take ownership of it. So if it succeeded, which I knew it was going to, because I was not going to fail. Failure is not an option for me in this regard. But any mistakes I made, they were mine. And then I could fix them instead of just being told no, which sounds funny, but it was that way every day. No. And I hate that word. In fact, it's number one on the list of 5 things I hate. No.
But now you get to say yes.
All the time.
And that's one of the things, I don't want to derail us because I want to tell more of the origin story, but one of the things that I love about you is you say yes to basically any customer request.
Yeah,
You're someone, if somebody comes to you and says, there was an example, I think it was a carrot cheesecake that you made for somebody. Not a carrot cake cheesecake,
correct,
but a carrot cheesecake. And that is not on your list of offerings.
Correct.
It's not something that I don't even know if you'd ever made it before.
Nope.
But you said yes.
Yep, I did.
And I love that about you is you're not only saying yes to yourself, but you're saying yes to your customers too. It just ties in beautifully.
Yeah, thank you.
What drew you to baking and cooking originally?
Well, I've always loved cake. Always have loved cake, for sure. So baking cakes was great. But it really all started when the girls, I have 3 daughters who are grown now, but they were little, and they're 37, 36, and 35 now. So when they were little, we had a house full. And I was a housewife, and I loved to cook. So I would go get Bon Appetit every month, and I would find recipes in there, and it would take me hours upon hours to make these meals, but I would just cultivate my skills. And once Mike, my husband, would come home and he'd be like, oh my gosh, this is good. And my little girls, 2, 3, and 4 years old at that point, would eat the food and love it. And we're not talking chicken nuggets and hot dogs, which are fantastic. Kraft macaroni and cheese, yay. I'm talking about gourmet style meals, and the girls would eat them. And it just kind of, that fueled the love of cooking. And then just making more things, seeing a picture of a cake and saying, oh, I want to try that. Back then, what was pictured on the magazine was not what was pictured on my counter at all, but the flavors were there. So I knew I had that part of it down, and then it just expanded from there.
So how did you determine that, you're unsatisfied in your job, don't want to do this anymore, don't want to hear no anymore, time to say yes? Why was starting a bakery especially one out of your home? Why was that the avenue? What made you say this is what I want to be my yes?
Yeah, so when I made the decision that I was going to leave my job, I gave myself one whole year to leave. And I did not know what I wanted to do. I just knew I did not want to work there anymore. So I thought, okay, I've got a year. The job market was fine. So I could figure out, do I want to stay in marketing? Do I want to stay in the dental industry? Do I want to go do something else? But I was always baking on the side. I was selling a cake here or there. And every time I talked to somebody about my cake, I sold it. And it didn't matter. I still remember the one funny thing. I was out at the bar with a group of friends having a cocktail, and these two of their friends show up, these two men, and I just start chatting with them, telling them all about my cake, my deep red raspberry cake, and oh my gosh, it's so good, and this buttercream is fantastic, it's wonderful, and they both ordered one. Never met these guys in my life. They both hand me money, say, deliver these cakes on this day. They don't know me from Adam, but they handed me money, and I think it was probably at that moment that I thought, you know what? I can sell a cake to anybody I talk to. Maybe this is what I need to do. I need to just sell cakes from my home.
And you sold, once you put online, I remember you told this story last time and it stuck with me for years. Once you put online, I think it was on Facebook, that you were going to be selling cakes like professionally, you had your first order within 5 minutes.
5 minutes, and it was in 2017, probably on this very day.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, were you surprised at how quickly things took off? And not even just that first cake, but just like a lot of businesses, it takes some time to garner some traction and gain some attention, but that wasn't really the case for you.
No, I got really lucky, and actually April 22nd is a key day for me. And it just came, and I knew the day was close, and then I got a reminder. A friend of mine texted happy anniversary, and it stuck. Omaha Food Lovers and COVID were key in my immediate skyrocket to success, because I had planned to bake 17 cakes a week, and I was not doing anywhere near that. I was relaxing. I was decompressing after 18 years of being told no. And I joined Omaha Food Lovers at the urging of a friend. And the next day, 12 hours later, the next morning, I had an order. And I'm like, gosh, what? And then people were saying, oh my gosh, we're so glad you're on this site. We've been talking about you, been hearing about you. And of course, I wasn't on Food Lovers, so I didn't know any of this. And then I started posting pictures, and every time I posted a picture, I would get an order. And it truly went from 10 cakes a month. Like I said, it wasn't really working very hard at all for the first 6 months, to 25 to 35 cakes a week in 3 weeks. And that was shocking, phenomenal. And I kind of expected that over time I would grow to that, but to have to ramp up to that level that quick was, it was challenging, but it didn't take me long. It took me 3 months to figure that out, how to do it.
And how did you? I mean, that sounds just insanely intense. If you're planning on baking 3 cakes a week and all of a sudden or 3 cakes a day, and that number jumps up to
5 to 7.
Yeah, 5 to 7. That's a huge difference. That's a big time commitment that you've got to figure out. Timing with oven space, all kinds of different things going on. Like, how did you make that adjustment so quickly?
So I had an epiphany in the middle of the night on Tuesday after Father's Day, where Father's Day I had 5 orders in one day, and I was dying. I was literally going, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Because it was 5 different things. It was a couple of pies, a cheesecake, and 2 big cakes. And so you can't just like push and pull and make everything at once. But that Tuesday, I woke up and realized that I needed to change my entire baking process. And I don't really like to go into that very much.
No, that's okay.
Only because I kind of think it's like something that I developed for my business. But what it did is it increased my output. It tripled my output without costing me any money, without taking any more time. But I was able to triple my volume.
We won't give away the trade secrets here. We don't need everybody trying to start their own cake companies, but I'm happy to hear that you were able to figure out a process that was a game changer.
Yeah, and it literally was an epiphany in the middle of the night. I woke up going, oh my gosh, this is how I'm going to do my business. And so what happened with that is when the ability to say yes almost all the time became no problem at all, because I could definitely do it.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. Why? I mean, there's a reason that most bakeries don't say yes to all requests, because they are limited on time, because they have limited oven space, because they don't have time to necessarily, if somebody comes up and says, I want a carrot cake cheesecake, like, they don't have the time to like experiment and try 3 or 4 different recipes or get online and look up a bunch of different stuff, because they're in such production mode. Why do you offer that to customers? Why do you say yes to everything?
Well, I think we've talked about the science of baking before, and it truly is a science. And because it's a science, you know what to expect in almost all instances. And then there are the variables that come in, like the humidity level, winter versus summer, dry air, all of that. But generally speaking, recipes all are the same. You know, I think back to the salt, fat, heat.
Acid, heat.
Yes, exactly. They're all the same. So somebody says, hey, I want a carrot cheesecake. And I'm like, okay. So I go and I look at 8 different recipes with cheesecake. And they're all the same. They're just, if somebody's doing this or that, but generally the components are identical. So the same is true with cake or with pie or with anything. The outline is always the same. It's how you incorporate the filler. And I have figured out how to incorporate filler at the ratios that work with the cake. I just had a lady come and pick up a strawberry cake this weekend, and she said it was a do-over for a granddaughter. And what happened? She goes, we got this cake, and it was wet. From another baker. It was just wet. And I said, that is a consideration with strawberries. You want to fill up your cake with strawberries, but you can't, because it will overwhelm the dry ingredients. So you need the flavor, but not that much moisture. And that's just something I have figured out how to accommodate. But it does come with a lot of research, because when I got the carrot cheesecake, I had to go, okay, how do I incorporate carrots, not carrot cake, into this, and incorporate the moisture that's going to come from the carrots. So, it's just looking at all that. And as long as I know that I've got the science part of it down, I don't worry about going out and doing something brand new. I just don't concern myself that it won't work out, because it always does.
Well, and I imagine, yes, it can be hard to figure out these recipes sometimes. There might be a little bit of trial and error and a little bit of failure, but I imagine it's also kind of fun and a challenge for you, because God knows how many chocolate cakes you baked, how many almond cakes you baked, to have somebody come and say, I have this new challenge for you. I want you to make a banana cake, or for whatever it might be. And you get a chance to go, okay, I've never done that before, but all right, let's see what I can do. What's that feeling like? Right.
So first of all, for the people who aren't watching this on YouTube, Dan is just sitting here rubbing his hands together like, oh, I don't know.
In anticipation,
yeah. It is super exciting for me when somebody gives me an opportunity to create something brand new for them. It's just like, oh my gosh, they are putting so much confidence in me to be able to do this. Usually it's going to be for some special occasion. So I'm on the hook twice. One, don't mess up the cake, and two, don't mess up my big special event. That's another one of those things when you said what keeps you going, that would be one. Yeah, the confidence to spread my wings and try something different.
Other than customer inquiries, where are you getting inspiration for new cakes and new creations?
Oh, just where everybody is, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, the TikTok reels that come in, and then magazine covers when I'm walking through the store. I used to buy them all years ago, well before I ever started baking, when I had little girls, and my mom would send magazines over, and I would just read them and cut out a picture and stick it in my cookbook, and every now and then I'll pop one open. Oh my gosh, this looks really good. I should try this sometime.
Isn't that wild to think, like, that we used to, like, because I would do the same thing. Like, I remember, like, I would get Sports Illustrateds and like cut stuff out and put it up on the walls. And now I have Twitter where I get all my sports news. And now we have Instagram and TikTok and things like that,
Right.
where instead of reading a recipe, you can watch someone do it in 45 seconds. And of course, they make it look a lot easier than it really is usually. But
Yeah, that's
still,
true.
It's kind
They
of
do.
wild. When did you know that Buttered Marshmallow was going to be a success? I know you are a person of great confidence. That's one
Yeah.
of the things that I really admire about you.
Thank you.
So I know you never came into this business thinking, I hope this works. You knew that you were going to succeed. You talked about that. But like when was it like, dang, yes, there's no doubt this is working.
Yeah, so this is going to sound funny. It still sounds funny to me. When I bought 10 pounds of cornstarch, when I paid $500 for supplies, and it didn't even faze me. And when I started buying flour and sugar in 100-pound bags.
100-pound bags.
Yeah, so the cornstarch and the supplies were big. Cornstarch comes in a 2-pound box. So Argo cornstarch, it's that golden orange color with the blue corn. And you buy it, and maybe you throw out after using 3 tablespoons, and you look, and the expiration date was 9 years ago. I don't use a ton of cornstarch. I don't, but I was going through cornstarch and making different custards for pies and puddings and whatever else, pie fillings. And I was going through it a lot. And I was having to go buy 2-pound boxes. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. And I bought a 10-pound tub of cornstarch, knowing that I was going to use that 10-pound tub of cornstarch well before the expiration date ever. It's a little weird, but that was one way I knew. Oh my gosh, I just bought 10 pounds of cornstarch. Didn't cost me a ton, but to know that that was something I would use up, that was huge. It really was. And then pink boxes are not cheap. Bakery, the packaging is not cheap, but pink boxes are about 3 to 4 times more than a white box.
Really?
Yeah, they're expensive.
Oh.
They are expensive. And I get them online through a restaurant wholesaler, and I put in this order, and I ordered 12 by 12 boxes and 10 by 10s and 9 by 9s and some cake boards and cupcake wrappers and you name it. And the order came to $565 before shipping, and I'm like, send. I thought, oh my gosh, I just ordered that many supplies. So I ordered about 750 boxes, thinking again that would last me 3 years, which it did not anywhere near. But that was another time. And then when I started buying flour and sugar in 100 pounds, which is really just economy of scale. So I don't want to, I do my supply shopping every Monday, and that's when I do inventory every Sunday. I hate it, but I do it every single Sunday. And my goal is that I buy exactly what I need for the week, so that I'm running just-in-time inventory all the time. But there are certain things: cornstarch, flour, sugar, butter. I'll buy butter for a few weeks, or a couple weeks, a few if I can. so I don't have to keep going to the store every week for those. And when I was able to buy those tubs that held that amount of flour and sugar, I'm like, yeah, this is
real.
yeah,
I'm doing it.
Yeah, and I'm not concerned that I'm going to be sitting on this flour or sugar for any length of time.
Even as much success as you had, as confident of a person as you naturally are, it's inevitable that there were moments where you had doubt, where you were like, what am I doing? Was leaving my job the right choice? I'm making cakes for a living, at 57 years old. I'm running a bakery out of my house. What is my life now? What were those moments like, and what did you do to just shove those doubts aside and say, no, that's not my mindset. That's not where I am.
So it's not quite. I never really had that thought about, gosh, have I made a mistake, in the way that you referenced it. But when I got my first complaint, it was devastating. It really was. And I have talked to bakers around town who have brick and mortars, and it's the same thing. You bake a cake and you put all of your love into this cake, and then somebody calls and they are brutal with you. Oh, this tastes just like you picked it up at a store. This is store-bought icing that you put on my cake. This was the driest thing I've ever had. And the ganache between the layers was just hard, and this person, I think their entire purpose was to run me out of business. I was devastated, really just crushed. And I call my daughter, who's in the food industry, and I'm telling her what's going on. And she's like, Mom, you need to step back. You cannot take this personally, but you can't not take it personally, not when it was that bad. And I just remember at that point, the next order I got, I wanted to tell these people, I can't do this. I'm sorry, I can't take your order, because I felt like I don't know what I'm doing. Oh my gosh, I have this whole bakery, and everybody hates every single thing I'm doing, all based on one horrible person. And it took me far too long to get through that. Probably a week and a half, and I'm having to continue to bake and second guess everything I've been doing right all this time, thinking it's going to be bad. And then I go for months, and then I get another one. You ruined my mom's birthday. This is the worst thing I've ever had. It's ugly. And I'm like, oh my gosh, these people are horrible. They are really, they are horrible. And so probably for the 3 years when I would get, and I don't get a lot of complaints, really. I bet you I've had 10. And you say, I'm just going to give you all your money back right now. I'm so sorry this happened to you. It's not how can I fix it. I'm giving you your money back. Would you like another cake for free? And after about 3.5 years, I finally stopped taking it personally, because I started seeing how people can just be awful. And even if you say, listen, I am so sorry all of this happened. I really wanted to present you with something wonderful. Those comments like that did make me question what I was doing.
Wow.
Look at Dan's face. You should see, he's so sad for me.
I'm just hurt, because people, this is why you don't go on Yelp or Omaha Food Lovers, anywhere else, Google and leave a 1-star review or do something like that, because this is what you could do to someone.
Yeah.
And the thing that, as you're saying all this, I'm going through my mind. I've had this conversation with chefs before where dishes will get sent back to the kitchen, or someone will post a picture online and be like, I ordered my steak this way and they cooked it this way and they did it wrong and they did it wrong. And it's like, the culinary professionals know more than you, Mr. Joe Diner. You have your preferences, yes, and you're allowed to have those, but don't tell the chef or the baker that they're doing their job wrong. Now, yes, mistakes get made.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no doubt about that. And like you said, you're more than willing to fix those. But it's just when people just complain, even if it's not the fault of the creator, that it drives me up a wall.
Yeah, it's hurtful and it's harmful. It's harmful to the entire industry, especially when you do it publicly. And you can see the backlash to the complainers is usually stronger than the backlash to the business that they are harming. But, I would never purposely bake a cake and ruin it for you.
Right.
That's just not my thing. Nobody does that. No good person, like 99.9% of the public, is never going to do something like that. And so, yeah, you had a special moment that somebody made less special in your eyes. But in the end, it comes down to everybody thinks they can do your job better than you can. Everybody thinks they know more about what you're doing than you do. But when you come and you say that publicly, just put a knife through my heart.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to get us back in the positive direction. Forget those negative Nancy's. We're not going to talk about them. I'm so curious. I mean, you've got, I think it's 44 signature cakes on your website for people to order. Obviously, some of them are very basic, from just, your vanilla or almond to just really creative, kind of wild creations. Every one that I've had has been fantastic. I want to talk more about those really creative ones. Like when you get an idea and you're just starting from the base level, how do you build the cake up? Do you start with like flavor, texture? So the way that I want to introduce this question is, we've made a couple references to Sarah's Chocolate Dream Cake, which is a cake that you made after, and it's named after my wife because she is a chocoholic. Mm-hmm. Like if it's chocolate, she wants it. And you created this cake that just like crushed other cakes for me. And it's easily my favorite cake. Like when I do my best things I ate list every year, dessert is always the easiest one, because I'm just like, well, whenever we had Sarah's Chocolate Dream Cake, that's it. So take me back to the ideation on that. When you say, I want to make Sarah's Chocolate Dream Cake, how did you build that up?
So I want to tell you that cake came to be in a complete different method than the other cakes that the other big cakes you're talking about. It is the only cake that I've really ever done like this. You told me that Sarah likes chocolate. That's what you told me. I didn't ask you any other questions whatsoever, right? So I'm thinking, okay, I want to do something a little bit more unusual. I'm going to do a chocolate cream cake. So it's a little more dense, but still very delicious. And then I'm going to add some chocolate chips to that cake so that you get that texture, because I think that is so important. I usually try and add some texture to cakes so you get a different bite with each bite. And then I thought, ooh, you know what? I'm just going to add some coffee to this. I'm going to, just to draw out the flavor of the chocolate, I'm going to do a coffee simple syrup. There's not coffee incorporated into the cake. I brush it with the simple syrup. And then the gravity-defying drip that goes up the cake instead of down, that was something that I had been wanting to try. And I thought, well, you know what? She likes chocolate. I think I'll do that. And I'm going to put chocolate ganache between the layers instead of chocolate icing. And instead of whipping the ganache like most everybody does, I'm just going to make that melty ganache. And then I'm going to spread that between the layers. So it's not going to be whipped. It's just going to be melty. And then it will never get hard. It will just get a little solid. Then I put on that drip upwards, and then iced it I iced it first with my regular chocolate buttercream, which is a milk chocolate buttercream almost flavor-wise, because everything else was dark chocolate and semi-sweet chocolate and coffee chocolate. And so I want that lighter chocolate to offset. And then when I got done icing it, I'm like, oh, I'm going to put that hot chocolate ganache right on top and just kind of swirl it around so you get this beautiful hot chocolate swirl on top. And I looked at it and thought, yeah, this cake is stunning. It is gorgeous. And then you came to pick it up, or I texted you the night before, hey, your cake is ready. Tell me, what would Sarah love in a chocolate cake? And you, without having seen this cake, proceeded to describe everything I had done on this cake. To me, it's still one of the greatest things I've ever done, because I made what you told me she would love without ever having spoken to either of you about it.
It is one of the greatest things you've ever done. And you've done a lot of great things in your life, but this cake is just, it's on the Mount Rushmore. people, if you are listening to or watching this right now and you're not getting on butteredmarshmallow.com right now to order this, shame on you. You are a bad person. You should be doing that.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
What he said.
So you mentioned this process was very different than your normal ideation process. What's your normal ideation process?
So if somebody asks me for a cake that I haven't made before, I'm going to reference one in particular, and that would be my Bananas Foster cake. So I had a customer call me. They're getting married. His favorite flavor is Bananas Foster, and would I make one because nobody else in town would? So I said, sure. So this is kind of what I do with every cake, like the peanut butter Reese's cakes, etc. I go online. So first I know in my head what they are, like Bananas Foster. You eat it over ice cream. So I go online and I look at Bananas Foster's cake recipes. And what I see are people are making banana cake with vanilla buttercream and maybe some brown sugar and bananas. But I'm thinking that's not Bananas Foster. Bananas Foster is Bananas Foster over the oven, flambéed, served over ice cream, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought, ooh, I'm going to make a cream cake. So instead of just a regular white cake, it's going to be made with cream so that it is reminiscent of ice cream. And then I'm going to make Bananas Foster because that's what you're wanting. So I just thought, okay, I'll put the Bananas Foster between the layers of the cream cake. So now you're getting Bananas Foster right there. And then the buttercream, I'm like, well, I got to incorporate more rum than just is in the Bananas Foster because that's how it flambés, which, by the way, I also do a live Facebook every time I make Bananas Foster. Watch me flambé it up. So I mixed in rum with that buttercream. So now you've got the rum flavor with the cake and the Bananas Foster filling. And then I take the whatever leftover caramelized stuff from the Bananas Foster and I mix it up with caramel. And then I just do a drizzle on top of the cake so it's this rummy caramel, cinnamon, banana-y, just little extra tiny little drizzles on the cake so you get that extra flavor when you bite into it. And that's what I do with like even the peanut butter cake. People ask, make me a Reese's peanut butter cake. They're chocolate cakes with peanut butter icing. Well, that's not a Reese's peanut butter cup. No, I make a peanut butter cake and then I cover it with the chocolate so that it's like a Reese's peanut butter cup. So it's kind of like, what is the final process and then how do I accomplish that with flavors that make sense according to what you're expecting something to look like?
I'm sure that this varies from cake to cake, but usually how many trials do you go through before you get to that final product? One?
Yeah, I never tried. I never do.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yep. Because it goes back to that whole science thing. You know, I just don't. I just make them.
Just make them.
Yeah.
Well, whatever your process is, it's working because I haven't had a miss yet.
Good deal.
I want to ask you specifically about a couple of your offerings, one of which is the peanut butter buttercream cake, which you had a Facebook post about this recently. I'm just going to read it. You said, that first bite was like nothing I've ever had. The entire world opened up, and there were stars and rainbows and glittering diamonds and glorious bells. So to clarify, I'm 61. I've eaten a lot of food, but not like this, not like this. So I don't think that you can top that description. I don't know if anyone can top that description. But what was it about, like, what made you wax poetic like that?
Oh
like, that's incredible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I've said this before about my peanut butter buttercream. It's the only buttercream I make where I actually want to stick my face into the bowl of buttercream and not come up for air until it's done. It is just the creamiest, silkiest peanut butter. You know, peanut butter, I do enjoy peanut butter right off the spoon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it can be a little thick. You maybe want to drink something with it. But this buttercream, first of all, you taste it, and then it just goes down just so smooth and silky, and it's so good. It's so good, right? And then the peanut butter cake. It tastes like peanut butter in a cake. it is every good thing about peanut butter that you love in a cake. So you put those two things together, and it is, well, I was going to say it's not enough peanut butter, but the fact is it's the perfect amount of peanut butter in the perfect ratio, in the perfect bite of flavor. It's just
You're at a loss for words almost.
It is so good. I'm not an envious person by heart. I really am not. But there are certain things that I am envious of, and a lot of times it's the customer who's picking up the peanut butter cake. I want that cake. I want to know when is your party, because I would like to be there to have part of my cake.
Oh my gosh. I've not had this one yet, and it sounds like I need to change. I don't know if I can convince Sarah to order anything other than Sarah's Chocolate Dream Cake, but that description might give us a chance.
It's pretty darn good.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. The other cake that I really wanted to ask you about is, of all the cakes that you offer, there is only one that holds the title of being the Buttered Marshmallow Signature Cake. What about that cake makes that like the tentpole cake for your business?
Well, the name, for one. And by the way, I do like to mention regularly, Buttered Marshmallow is trademarked, and so is that cake. So nobody...
Oh, the cake is trademarked too. Okay.
Yeah, so, and I'm litigation happy, by the way. I have if we have a second to talk about trademarks, I'd love to. But, it's a beautiful cake, and it looks the exact same for every single person, every single time you pick up a cake. It's just spectacular. It's got the, really great flavors in it. The marshmallows are baked into the cake and then on top. So you can get a big bite of marshmallow on the top, and then you just get that hint of that torched buttered marshmallow flavor into the layers. It's just a really beautiful cake that represents really everything that's in my heart for this bakery. Here is something that you're not going to get anywhere else that looks absolutely spectacular, tastes as good as it looks, and is going to will exceed your expectations for flavor and texture and quality.
And the name Buttered Marshmallow, that comes from, you were in like a s'mores it wasn't even s'mores. It was just a marshmallow roasting competition. Correct. Years and years ago, and you decided that you were going to cover the marshmallow in butter and then roast it.
Yes.
And that was just a total game changer.
Oh, yeah.
And those are the marshmallows that are on that cake now.
Yes.
So the lesson is always, butter makes things better. Might not make our waistlines better, but flavor never hurts.
Yeah, I go through a lot of butter on the marshmallows and in my buttercream. Yeah, I'm buying 36 pounds of butter about every 12 days.
It was really fun in preparing for this, going back through your social media and seeing yes, people associate buttered marshmallow with cakes. Mm-hmm. And cakes, I would assume, that's most of your business. But you offer other baked goods. You've done Christmas cookies, you've done orange rolls, pavlova, yeast rolls, lemon bars, brownies, poppy seed citrus rolls, pumpkin, apple pies. I mean, you can go through. There's all kinds of different things over time, which I just think is really fun that you don't just totally specialize, but you're constantly trying new things. But there was a trip that you took in March of 2024 to Paris that I think unlocked a whole new world for you. And that was when actually, no, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. You know the trip that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Tell me about it and how that opened a whole new world for you baking wise.
Yeah, well, I get wanderlust every year in February and March. I just do. I want to go somewhere, and that trip happened to pop up. And 10 days later, I was in Paris, and I went there thinking I'm going to learn something new, and I found this croissant baking class, and that's when I took it. Croissants are not easy. They're time consuming. A home baker, they can take up to about 36 hours. You can do it in a day if you don't have anything else going on, but really they should sit between rolling, which is called laminating. But going there and learning that process, there is something about rolling out that croissant dough that is so fulfilling. I really struggle to articulate what it does to me internally, how it just makes me feel. But when I roll out that dough and it is exactly perfect, and I roll out that rectangle and I'm hand rolling those croissants and brushing them with the egg, getting them to proof up beautifully and bake, it is just so fulfilling. It really is. It's like it's the art of pastry, and I have managed to learn the art of pastry and using the fresh yeast. Fresh yeast changes everything. There's like with powdered yeast that most people use, nothing wrong with it, but I struggled with it my whole life. I didn't have a thermometer, so you're testing the water temperature on your wrist. Oh, does that feel like 110? Oh, I don't know. Does it feel like 97? What's the difference? I don't know. With fresh yeast, you don't have that issue. It's either good or it's not good, and then it makes everything just rise exponentially more. Like my yeast rolls are they're fluffy, not because I make them fluffy. That fresh yeast just goes nuts. But it's the whole fresh yeast thing. It just opened up a whole world for me, and like I said, the art of pastry. I mean, to create a croissant, 48 layers. Mine are 48 layers. A lot of people do more. Mine are 48. And one day when I accidentally baked 3 dozen too many because of the rain prevented golf and me sharing them, I was counting the 48 layers like probably 12 times. I couldn't quit eating them. It's terrible. I had to take them to Janicek Florist. I get my flowers for my cakes there. Here, take these.
Get these off my hands. I'm going to eat all this.
Yeah.
I just find that so fascinating that, like you said, you're someone who's cooked and baked for a great portion of your life. Mm-hmm. You've always drawn joy from it. At this point, you'd been a professional baker for about 4.5 years, and you were still able to have this moment where you had like an epiphany, where you were just like, oh my gosh, there's this whole new thing that I get to learn and I get to do, and it gives me this feeling that no other baking has ever given me.
That's true, and still doesn't. I just made a batch of them last week for a customer, and rolling them. There's just something about that. I could get a sheeter, which I would love, but I don't. And I would use the sheeter for the croissants, and I would miss out on that feeling that I get from actually hand rolling that dough. There's nothing like it.
And I know I'm going to be paying close attention to your social media and your website, because you teased something the other day where you were doing like a cross between a croissant and a cinnamon roll.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I'm sure someone else has thought of that and that exists somewhere, but I've never seen it and I want to eat that.
Yeah. Yeah. I have tried a couple of different things with croissants. One, I did a pumpkin croissant, and then I did this cinnamon roll one. And there's something I'm missing in the process. The dough, it fell apart. It like spread too thin. Maybe the cinnamon doesn't react well with the butter. I don't know how to explain what was happening with the dough. So instead of making croissants, I just took everything and rolled it all up and rolled it into bread and rolled it into rolls, and then I posted it online for sale, and then they were all gone. People came and bought them all and said, oh, these are fantastic, these are wonderful. But with all 3 customers, I caveated it that these don't look like what I would hope that they're going to look like. They're like, we don't care. Perfect. Here's your money. Thank you. Enjoy your food. We will. And they did.
That's how you know you've made it, is when people are not only willing to pay for your mistakes, but then they rave about it and say, good job.
Can we have more of those mistakes next week?
Yes.
Sure.
Stacey, I just absolutely love talking with you, and I could do it all day long. Unfortunately, we have time constraints. We're up against it.
Oh, that.
But I have one last question for you, and that's, it's so fun to look back on your business and the decision that you made to start it and just this trajectory that you've been going on for the last 5 years and selling 5,000 cakes. But let's flip that, because I think you are a forward-thinking person. When you look into the future of Buttered Marshmallow, do you see what do you see? Do you see a bakery? Do you see staying in your home forever? Like, what do you see as the future of your company?
I will never get a bakery. I thought about it. I went to Florida in March to visit a friend, and we went and visited many bakeries. And one of them talked about, they had a similar story to mine, but they ended up going into this brick and mortar, and they're doing millions a year with 6 employees, and explained to me how it was a terrific conversation. And of course I come home and I'm thinking, but you know what, in the end, I'm a firm believer in stay in your lane. And my lane is what I do. I don't want to go do pop-ups because I'm going to have to tell too many people no for the potential of maybe telling some people yes. I see myself continuing to bake out of my house, adding some cakes. Yesterday you'd asked me if I'd taken some things off the menu. I'm like, no, I never do that. I just add some deals, but just continue to do what I'm doing. And maybe there might be a couple trips in the future, in a couple of years, where I go learn some other cultural foods to add that I don't see a lot in town. But primarily for me, it will be to stick to what I'm doing, baking out of the house, selling out of my window, and just doing what I know how to do and improving on that.
Well, that is very comforting and great to hear, because in my view, at least, there's nothing about your business that needs to change.
Thank you.
I am a huge fan of your product. I have been since I first experienced it, however many years ago.
When I coerced you into buying your first cake.
The best coercion ever. I want to be coerced into finding something that I want to have at all times. So thank you for doing that. But in all seriousness, people, like, these cakes will change the way that you look at cake. They have done that for me, and I'll eat other cakes now, and I can still enjoy them, but I'm just like, man, what would Stacey do with these flavors? What would Stacey's version of this cake look like? And I cannot encourage you enough to go on buttermarshmallow.com. Just poke around, look at the different options, go on Stacey's Facebook, Instagram pages, and just look. I bet that you're going to be pretty convinced that you want something.
Thank you.
Stacey, thank you for your hard work in starting this business and keeping it going and thrilling us with great cakes. And thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast today.
My pleasure. I hope to keep doing it for a lot of years and maybe be on here a couple more times.
Let's do it.
All right.
We'll book it now. Let's book it for 2027.
Sounds good.
Omaha, as always, thanks for eating with us.